Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever Live and Let's Dice unboxing. I just want to give a massive thank you to John and the Warhammer community team for sending us through not only some new data cards for additional warbands that could be added into the fantastic new WarCry game, but also the third official group, the Cypher Lords. And this is going to be something that I'm very interested in playing. So, what do you actually get in your box of Cypher Lords for WarCry? Well, you get a few of the Mindbound. You've got the Mirror Blades, which seem to be a much more sort of elite faction, and the two specials, the Luminate and the Thrallmaster, which appears to be the leader. Now, as we have seen in the other WarCry models and the scenery that's been provided in the starter box, again, that we have received here on Live and Let's Dice, the model quality is something to be quite astounding, really. And it seems to be that this is going to be following suit with the models on display here as well. There's a lot of extra focal bits there, like the headpieces that are going to look so nice when painted up. Got your nice instruction guides there, nothing too out of the ordinary, but this is the thing that we're most excited about, the special abilities and data cards for the faction. Now, the way that WarCry works, if you've not had a chance to play it yet, is at the beginning of each of the rounds, you'll be rolling a ton of dice, and that will generate which abilities you can use for your factions. Now, as you can see here, some of them will have doubles, some will have triples, and the big one is the quad, which is obviously much harder to generate without the help of the magic dice that you roll at the beginning of the round. But they do tend to have stuff that would and can definitely change the tide of battle. So what have we got here then? We've got a few separate data cards here, which are all in different languages, which actually makes a lot of sense, seeing as this is such a new and well-supported version of a game that Games Workshop are kicking out, that it makes sense to have all of these different languages to make sure that you can play all around the world. But obviously, seeing as my French, German, Spanish, and, well, let's just say any other language other than English is pretty subpar, let's just stick with the ones that we can read here and go into a bit more detail over what sort of abilities you can use. So for the double, you can get throwing stars and chakrams. So pick a visible enemy fighter within 6 inches of this fighter and roll 2 dice. For each roll of 4 to 5, allocate 1 damage point to that fighter. For each roll of a 6, though, allocate a number of damage points to that fighter equal to the value of this ability. Now that is a big risk, obviously, trying to roll for the 6, but if you've already done a double, your 6 as a double, that could mean that you could do 6 extra damage off of that, which is actually pretty tasty. But this is the thing that I'm actually more interested in, because the other two warbands that you get in the starters kit, you've got the Untamed Beasts and you've got the Iron Golems, and each of them have got a very specific pattern of play. Now, the Untamed Beasts definitely favour using their larger numbers and lither sort of smaller units to gain ground very quickly and capture objectives, while the Iron Golems, while definitely fewer in number, have the raw power on one side with their giant ogre style person, and on the other side, even their basic grunts have a toughness of 5 thanks to that meaty shield they've got, so they're very good at holding objectives when they get there. Whereas these guys, it appears that they can have, for example, this ability here, the Acrobatic Leap, which gives them the fly ability, meaning that, for example, if you were playing an objective-based game in which you had to scale or traverse very dangerous landscape in order to get to objective points, or even as we played recently in a sort of floor is lava style game, getting off the floor to score points, it can be very essential to have an ability like that. So being able to give every single person within the warband, thanks to this signifier here, the ability to fly, and they cannot move vertically upwards more than 3 inches is the only caveat. But then again, getting them onto a platform to dislodge somebody else definitely could be useful. Okay, so the Mirrorbound can actually use this skill here, which is called the Low Sweeping Blow, which is roll 1 dice for each visible enemy within 2 inches of this fighter. On a 4 to 5, allocate 1 damage point to the fighter being rolled for. On a 6, allocate a number of damage points to the fighter being rolled for equal to the value of this ability. So that means with the Mirrorbound, you could use them to basically go into large groups of enemies and hopefully either do small increments of damage, or, more interestingly, jump them up there and use that so that they can basically knock people off ledges and hopefully secure more sort of advantageous terrain. Now, moving on here, we've got another special ability, and this one is for, appears to be our leader here, which is called, again, the Thrallmaster. And this ability will allow them to do a shadowy recall. And this is a triple skill, so you need 3 dice of the same value in order to cast this. Pick a friendly fighter with the minion rune mark, which is identified there as a sort of shallow star that is within 12 inches of this fighter. Remove that fighter from the battlefield and then immediately set them up anywhere on the battlefield within a number of inches of this fighter equal to the value of this ability. So for example, if you rolled a 6 and you were using that as your triple, you'd be allowed to position them 6 inches away from this minion. Fantastic for a warband that potentially doesn't have the durability of the Iron Golems or the raw savage strength of the Untamed Beast to be able to pull people back and help out in a pinch. And trust me, you're going to want to keep the Thrallmaster alive because I'm sure that they're going to have some pretty nasty abilities, and we'll look at the ability cards in a minute. Well, according to the data cards here, it's actually the shadowy recall that I was just talking about can actually be used by not only the Thrallmaster, but also the Luminate as well, meaning that both of your sort of air quotes hero classes will be able to call back minions to their aid, which is pretty fantastic. And to round things out, we're talking about the Shattered Gloom Globe, which is going to be lovely to say after a few points, which is again a triple, and it says until the end of the battle round, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristics to a minimum of 1 of attack actions made by enemy fighters while they are within 6 inches of this fighter. This is a great way to give some sort of durability to an otherwise weaker faction in terms of damage resistance, because that means obviously with 1 less attack dice being rolled against them, that's just another way to survive a few more rounds and make them even harder to displace. And finally, let's talk about the quad, which is the Spinning Somersault Strike. Again, they love the alliteration here. This fighter can fly when making move actions until the end of their activation. However, when flying, they cannot move vertically upwards more than 3 inches. In addition, this fighter makes a bonus move action. Then they can make a bonus attack action. Now that is essentially that's utterly game-changing if you're able to pull this off. If you use your wild dice correctly, then that means that you can have a fighter move into position, jumping up, getting into an enemy's sort of territory, and then trying to displace them from an objective or take them out as well. When used in conjunction with any of the fighters, because this can be used with anyone with that icon, means that you could potentially be doing some seriously insane damage. But let's now look over at the character ability cards now. So we'll start with the big boys themselves, the Thrallmaster, which is got a 205 point cost. As you can see here, a range of 1, 5 dice to roll, a strength of 4, and doing 2 to 6 damage a hit. That actually could be pretty insane, actually, if you roll enough crits, especially with 5 dice there. But with a toughness of 4, it's only going to be quite average. 20 health though, so that is actually pretty impressive. Now we've got the Mindbound, which seems to be the sort of generic fighters that we've got there. They're a toughness of 3, only 75 points apiece, so you can actually field quite a few of these. It's got a range of 1, 4 dice, 3 strength, which again is under average, but potentially could do some a good way of tying up enemies that are on objectives, or just basically providing some fodder while you get your nefarious plans underway elsewhere. Pretty standard stuff there. Then moving over, we've got the Luminate, who's got a spear, a range of 2, 5 dice, and a 4 strength. So that's pretty good actually. 15 health as well, and a movement of 5. 175 points, doing 2 to 5 damage a hit. Again, it's a glass spear style thing. Wouldn't expect to see them live very long, but then again, could do a lot of damage where it counts. At 80 points over here, we've got a Mindbound with a double-bladed sword, which has a range of 2, 3 damage dice to attack with, 3 strength, and doing 1 to 4 damage. Again, if you can hit those crits, these guys will be doing some serious work for you. And at only 80 points as well, you might be able to field a few more of them in an upcoming battle. Coming up next, at 115 points, we've got the Mirror Blade with dueling swords. Now, this actually is a very nice looking model. Only 1 range, but 5 damage dice with 4 strength, doing 2 to 4 damage a hit. Again, with only 10 life, it's quite weak, and a toughness of 3. That is going to be hard to see them survive a lot of rounds, but still, it could be very interesting. And finally, rounding up the pack, we've got the Mirror Blade with Glaive. This is a range of 2, 4 damage dice, a strength of 4, doing 2 to 5 damage a hit on a critical. Again, toughness of 3, so that durability isn't that great, and only 10 health, but 120 points as well. It means that it's not the most expensive, but still, if used correctly, this could be a valuable asset to any army. And so there we go. Those were the Cypher Lords, the newest WarCry warband, and I personally cannot wait to see these guys and girls in battle. battle very, very soon. And if you want to see them yourself in action, then stay tuned, subscribe to Live and Let's Dice for more reviews, battle reports, and everything else. Now, what I'm going to do is take a break, refocus, and then come back with all of the other data cards that we've been sent lovingly by Games Workshop and their community. I'm excited, and I hope you are too. But until then, as always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.